As we think about moving forward in our instructional planning as PLTs, it's important for us to remember to continue to identify ways where teachers and students are connecting using a variety of methods. In what ways are we once to twice a week doing real time or synchronous experiences with kids in which we might be delivering content? Offering feedback on student understanding or feedback on an assignment? Or how might we be engaging small groups or large groups of kids in discussions connected to the learning, or even providing public opportunities for students to offer feedback to each other and provide some social emotional check ins? The lengths of these times are very much impacted by the grade band and the instructional time expectations we've talked about previously. But in addition to any of these live, real time opportunities to engage in learning, it is important for students to have to predictable times each week, or even their parents, to connect with you, maybe for 15 minutes or maybe 30 minutes. Whatever works for you and your students is creating an office hour where they can ask questions, where they can check in. This is a time that's predictable for all students and parents, but it is not expected that teachers have any plan for how this time is used. And staff are encouraged, no matter what your interactions and what modes, that you're connecting with kids in formal and informal ways, that you're using opportunities to build relationships and you're using opportunities to support teaching and learning, just like you do in the normal classroom. Previously, we talked a lot about core tasks and extension tasks and how we want to plan both of these types of tasks throughout the week. And how, in doing those, we want to think about what real time and non real time activities kids might do, and what online versus offline activities they might do to engage in content. As we plan forward our lessons, we need to think about some questions as PLTs. We first want to start with what's the essential standard and the learning targets. What should a student know and be able to do? What does it look like and sound like? What DOK level is being targeted? And how does what we want students to understand and be able to do and the DOK level of that impact the task design or the assignment design? Sometimes we start with the lesson or the assignment before we start talking about the standard. It's good practice to start with the standard first so we know what we want students to be able to do, because that'll have implication in what lessons designs look like and assignment designs look like. So as you start with essential standard and you start to link together lessons into a series, how will you create that learning cycle across lessons to build understanding over time of those standards? How will you scaffold students? What role will the teacher play? What role will the student play? How will the teacher deliver content or support and offer feedback? How will the student engage and grapple and pull apart the content and put it back together again? What choices are students able to make as they engage in the learning or they want to show their learning? In what ways will students interact with one another? As we think about designing lessons in a sequence, some people talk about creating a learning cycle. And I just want to take this opportunity to introduce you to a cycle you might have already heard of before, but maybe would like to get reintroduced to. It's called the 5E learning cycle. It's not required that you use this learning cycle, but it kind of just models how to stay cognizant of connecting one lesson to the next as you work in your PLTs to do an instructional design. We also wanted to find a way that we model what kind of apps or tools might be supportive of what types of lessons that you do. So we layered in the 5E learning cycle with also technology tools that might be useful in supporting that. The 5E cycle always starts with engaging students first, somehow launching the learning, creating an initial connection with the content. That might involve activating prior knowledge or having students generate questions about a topic. How do you then also get them to explore and start to connect and get invested in a concept or a topic? How might they watch a video? How might they watch a demonstration? Or maybe there's a quote or an excerpt from a text you provide. Maybe there's a series of pictures that you show. There's a lot of ways that you can get students initially engaged in a concept where they're kind of in an exploration phase. And there are a variety of tools that can be used to support kids in just simply exploring a concept. Once kids have gotten engaged and then they've had time to explore, how are you solidifying that learning with students? How are students sharing what they've learned so far? How are students interacting in order to elevate what they're thinking about? And what do you need to insert as a teacher to provide some content and ideas for them to grapple with? And what tools might you use to do that? As students have explored a concept, they've built a larger explanation for what something is, how do they have an opportunity to practice what they've learned, or how do they have an opportunity to apply what they learned to a new situation or deepen their understanding? And what kind of tasks might help with that, and therefore what kind of tools might help with that? And at what point will you kind of evaluate? Where will you monitor student learning to offer feedback to them as they continue to refine their understanding? Again, it's not necessary that you use this 5E model. It does set up for a nice sequence when you think about a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, or Friday, or what chunks of your lessons might look like. But you'll notice that there are a lot of apps and tools that are supportive of any phase of this learning cycle. So you might look through this list and see, how might I use that? How might I use that? Feel free to reach out to anyone in teaching and learning to help you think about what apps and tools might be helpful for you to design your learning series within your PLT. Thank you very much for listening and hope you're doing very well.